Hello, my name is Antoinette Everett, and I am a student at Liberty University. And this is my interpersonal communication project for HSCO 508. In this presentation, I will be presenting to you the definition of interpersonal communication, identifying my overarching goal, a definition of enlarging the conversation, and introducing the influence of behavior blends. I will also explain potential barriers in my interpersonal context and give solutions to noise pollutions. Lastly, I will give an action plan to make my goals a reality. Next slide. What is interpersonal communication? According to Stewart 2012, interpersonal communication is when two people talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal. According to Stewart, he also explains as human beings, we are built for communication. We have a need to be in contact with other people and experience relationships with them. Another main point that Stewart expressed was that our identities are constructed through the communication process. So interpersonal communication requires the personal experience in the communication. Another study done in 2012 involving nurses and patients' relationship, the study revealed that the longer time spent interacting, it caused a higher level of bonding and interpersonal exchange. So the longer we interact with another person, the more interpersonal experience that we will have. Interpersonal competence is also a factor of interpersonal communication. According to Urs Khan, 2013, interpersonal competence involves a development of communication skills and the ability to engage effectively in complex interpersonal interaction and to use and understand people effectively. Next slide. My overarching goal is to be a level one listener in all situations. And this could be involving a coworker sharing what they did over the weekend, if my boss is giving me instructions for a project, or if a family member is sharing information or experiences throughout their day. Next slide. What is level one listening? Level one listening, according to Berkeley Allen, is empathetic listening. At this level, listeners refrain from judging the talker and place themselves in the other person's position to see things from their point of view. Listening from the heart opens the door to understanding, caring, and empathy. Next slide. Enlarging the conversation involves various aspects of communication. One is listening from the heart with empathy, and this is done by being understanding and non judgmental. Two is responding appropriately with nonverbal cues and verbal cues by nodding the head or leaning in forward. Number three is being mindful of our listening, which is making sure that our full attention is on the person talking and what they are saying. Four is self disclosure, and this is to be done on the part of the talker. Next slide. Introducing behavioral blends. According to Carbonell, behavioral blends are displayed through disc personality profiles. The D is associated with being active and task oriented. The I is associated with being active and people oriented. The S is associated with being passive and people oriented. And the C is associated with being passive and task oriented. Carbonell's theory expresses that the combination of these characteristics, that each person has a combination of these characteristics, and the evidence is revealed in their personality. Next slide. My behavioral blend consists of the driving competent type and competent specialist. Next slide. My behavioral blend has tendencies that I do have, and they include, according to the D component, being firm, strong, decisive, sure, and certain. The S component, kind, nice, caring, loyal, and true blue. The C component, conservative, inflexible, right, and contemplative. The tendencies that I do not have include, according to the D component, being bold, daring, convinced, cocky, and risk taking. I component is outgoing, popular, hyper, entertaining, or talkative. The S component, timid or soft spoken. And the C component, pondering or wondering. Next slide. My behavioral blend can influence my conversation in positive and negative ways. Some of the positive ways include me being nice, kind, and caring. These attributes that I have allow me to be willing to be patient, to listen to the other person talking most of the time. On the other hand, I have the tendency to be firm, certain, and inflexible. These are the negative patterns that I have in my behavioral blend when I am communicating. When I feel strongly about something, I will most likely not change my point of view. And it is hard for me to consider the other person's point of view. So that is not a very good habit, or those are not very good habits that I have, and they will be included in my action plan for better listening. Next one. The potential barriers in my interpersonal context include perception, reception, biased listening, and interrupting. Perception is a barrier because the ideas and beliefs that may be being shared from the other person may not agree with mine and can cause a break in my listening. The influence of my behavioral blend, the tendency to be inflexible, can cause me not to interpret the message as it is intended for me. Being Having biased listening is a potential barrier as well because certain words that may be spoken can cause strong feelings, and I may be distracted and not be able to interpret the message as well. Interrupting is a barrier in my communication because I do have the tendency to interrupt and give advice and suggestions. I also might express how I would have, acted in the place of that person if I was in the place of that person. And sometimes that throws the conversation off into another direction. And I even have the person telling me that they've forgotten what they've been talking about. So I will need to work on that as a barrier in my communication. Next one. Noise pollution and solution. Internally, I have my thoughts and feelings that can be a distraction. Mainly, trying to resist the urge to give advice or suggestions. This particular noise pollution is one that I really have to work on. The noise pollution of giving advice, interrupting with relating information, even if I feel like I'm relating to the person, I will need to make sure that I hold it until it's my turn to talk. Using the talker card, the talker listener card, I can better gauge myself and hold on to my own thoughts and wait until it's my turn to speak rather than interrupt the person while they're speaking about their experience and they're expressing their feelings and their thoughts, and then I interrupt them with mine. So the talker listener card will help me to gauge and to be able to hold my thoughts and my feelings until it's time for me to share. The external noise pollutions that I deal with consist of others needing my attention, and this happens at work. I have phone calls coming in, As I meet with clients, sometimes they don't speak loud enough, or they may speak too fast, or not give me enough information for me to understand exactly what they need. So I actually need to work on paying attention to one thing at a time and making sure that if I'm talking with a client, that I do not allow the phone to ring or do not answer the phone while I'm with the client. I can put on the do not disturb on my phone and have them to leave a message and call them back after I am done with my client. Next slide. My action plan to make my personal communication goals a reality, they include passionately listening. And what I mean by that is I do believe that passion can be applied to different aspects of our lives. And listening passionately can be one of those ways that we can enlarge our conversation. I believe that when we passionately listen, that we can put ourselves in the other person's shoes and we can feel what they feel. And the conversation would be better because I am now listening with a passion to this person and feeling what they're trying to say to me. Attentively notice is the next part of my action plan. And what I mean by that is that I will pay attention and notice the things that are going on so that I have more control, such as with noise pollution, internal and external. For the internal pollutions, I will make sure that I notice them. And once I notice them, especially with the urge to give advice and suggestions, I will need to make sure that I hold them back until the end or when it's my turn to speak. Attentively noticing external noise pollutions as well, such as if I forgot to put the do not disturb on my phone while I'm seeing a client, making sure that I take care of that. And also attentively notice what the person is trying to say to me, the underlying messages that they are trying to express, even through their verbal or nonverbal communication. I also need to attentively notice my verbal and nonverbal communication. I need to make sure that I am not in my head and leaning in forward appropriately, as we talked about earlier in enlarging the conversation. I will also need to make sure that I don't have my hands, my arms, my legs crossed, and making sure that I'm following along with verbal cues to let the person know that I am listening. Next slide. In conclusion, I have presented to you the definition of interpersonal communication. I have identified my overarching goal. I have also identified the communication barriers in my interpersonal context, and I've given solutions to noise pollution. I have also given a plan of action to make my goals a reality. Thank you for listening to my interpersonal communication presentation, and I hope this will give you information that you need that can help you better your interpersonal communication. Thank you.